On episode 19 of Light on Leeds, we are joined by Emily Carrigan, who runs the Rainbow Junktion Cafe in Hyde Park. She has lots of interesting things to say, so have a listen do. So for episode 19 of Light on Leeds podcast, we have Emily Carrigan. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So Emily, the first thing I heard about that you're involved in is the Rainbow Junktion Cafe. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
So I took over when I moved to Leeds 3 years ago, and I took over Rainbow Junktion Cafe then, and it's a food waste cafe. All the food that we serve there would have been thrown away, and then we have volunteers that transform it into delicious lunch, and then everything is pay as you feel. So we're trying to save food from the bin and fight food poverty, but everyone's welcome in our cafe. There's no restrictions on, you don't have to be in food poverty to come. It's a beautiful atmosphere. It's always really busy, and everyone chats and gets on, and we do workshops, and I don't know, I'm really proud of it. It's like a proper community hub, and it feels really special, actually. Yeah.
And where is it based?
So it's based in Hyde Park, in a church called All Hallows Church, but that shouldn't put people off if they're not religious or if they're not of the Church of England faith, because the cafe is very separate from the church. The church is very supportive, they're really they love it, but everyone comes, and I'm not religious.
Right.
Just when I interviewed for the job, the interview was really good, and I had to say at the end, I'm really sorry, I just wanted to tell you I'm an atheist and a lesbian, and they were like, great!
That's what you want to hear.
So, everyone's, my point is, everyone's welcome. But we're in Hyde Park, it's 24 Regent Terrace.
So how does it work with the whole food thing? How does that come about? Do you have to keep continually finding new links for places?
So one of our main sources of food is Food Revival in Pudsey. They have a warehouse. They were formerly the Real Junk Food Project. Now the Real Junk Food Project continues, but they're in Wakefield now.
Okay.
It's a bit too far for me to go. So I go to Pudsey once a week, and what they do is they go around all the supermarkets and collect all the food, and it's just if it's like my supermarket, then I go there and shop there. But other people can also go there. They have a little shop that people can go in and take, and it's pay as you feel as well, take shopping, and they also do vegan boxes, which I can't remember how much they are, so I won't say, but
well, we can put links in the podcast.
Food Revival, that's a good place. And then so I also work with FareShare, which is another organisation that does similar things, that collects from different supermarkets, and I can go and collect. They also have a warehouse in Leeds, and I have connections with local places like this. The local greengrocer near me, the Headingley greengrocer, gives me all their waste. The students, when they leave, tend to clear out their cupboards, and I get hundreds of cans of baked beans and chickpeas and all sorts of things like that.
Oh, that's fantastic. So do you have links with the universities then to get involved with that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of students that come and volunteer for me. There's a lot of the societies come and do events or workshops in the space, and we have good links with the union, good links with the international department. We have a lot of support. Both of the universities. Well, there's more than two universities, but
the main two.
The main two are very supportive and really helpful. It's great.
And is this kind of work something that you've always been involved in?
No. Well, my life took a bit of a wild turn a few years ago. I used to live in Paris.
Wow.
Which was lovely, and I I originally did a few things, but I ended up working for quite a long time in film distribution. So I worked for a documentary company, which was so interesting and wonderful, and then I ended up going to Calais. I raised some money for an organisation and contacted them and said, I've got this money, just through a party, sort of vibe in Paris, and they said, come along to Calais. We're doing a sort of a recce. We're just going for a few days. Come with us. And I went, and honestly, it just changed my life, that visit, because I ended up meeting an amazing woman called Liz Clegg, who ran the Women's and Children's Centre in Calais, which was at that time a tent full of unaccompanied kids and also families, young families and mothers with very young children. And then I went back again a couple of weeks later and again, and by the third time I quit my job and I went to volunteer there for a year. So it really swung from one, you know, I lived in a nice apartment in Paris, I had a nice job, you know, good money, travelled all the time, you know, living the dream kind of thing. And then I was suddenly volunteering full-time in a refugee camp, which was in many ways awful place, but in many ways also full of joy, and there was a lot of love and there was a lot of beauty in there as well. And then after about a year I was burnt out.
Yeah, I can imagine that would happen.
I was just exhausted, and it was so I left and I came to Leeds with the idea of staying for a couple of months. I bought a camper van, go travelling around, but I tried to volunteer at the Real Junk Food Project, and instead the church offered me this job, and I thought I'll do it for a year, and that's 3 years later. And honestly, I never thought I would live in Leeds. I never really thought I'd come back and live in England, because I lived in France for 9 years. So I was really very much like, that's it, goodbye. And it never occurred to me I'm obviously got quite a southern accent. I'm from near Brighton. I'm from Worthing. I never thought I would end up in the north of England, but Leeds has got me. It's so great here. I love it.
I feel the same. I've only lived here I think 15 years, but I'm the same. I just love the city, and I couldn't imagine living anywhere else.
That's so special.
Was there a reason why you chose Leeds in particular in the first place? I know it was just chance.
It was sort of an ex-partner's connection to the city, so,
right.
And she said, it's nice there, let's go and have a look, kind of thing. And I came up for a weekend and thought, it is nice here, and there are loads of good community things happening in Leeds that I can't imagine being anywhere else at the moment.
I think particularly as well, you know, for you to have come 3 years ago back to England when everything's progressively got more difficult politically.
The world's on fire.
It must have sort of made you feel a little bit like, oh my god, what am I doing? But was it sort of the want to get involved with things? And
Calais was one extreme, and I think actually like the cafe's like a good balance for my mental health. Because that year in Calais really it kind of broke me, I'd have to say. And also there were also personal things happening. You know, I got divorced, and my grandmother who brought me up my whole life died, and then my granddad died, and then my cat died, and I was just like, oh god. So I was broken, and actually, but I want to do good things, but I don't think I'm strong enough to do that frontline stuff for like long term. So the Rainbow Junction feels like a really good
like a compromise.
Good compromise. Like I know I'm doing something good, but it's also not. It's not destroying my mental health, which I think is really important.
Yeah, it's definitely very important, because you know, if you lose that, we haven't got you helping in any capacity.
And it's a big problem in activism and community work is burnout, and even in like the social care system and teachers and nurses and that, everyone's working too hard and burning out, and it's not sensible, it's not sustainable, and so I think So
you've learned to find a good balance.
I think so. Yeah,
that's good to hear.
And it's part time. Which gives me time to do other things. And I never really considered working part time, because if in Paris and in Brighton you couldn't afford to rent anything.
No.
You can't live on a part time minimum wage job in either of those cities. You just wouldn't. It's not possible.
No.
And luckily Leeds is cheaper.
It is.
So it has allowed me to work part time, and that also has been very good for my mental health and good for me to do other things, which it's good for the world, I hope.
I think you're right. So what kind of courses and events and things happen at the cafe?
Oh my goodness, so many things. I'm still kind of recovering from Christmas Day. We did a Christmas Day lunch for 200 people.
Wow.
That's the third year I've done that as well. So my brain's still a bit mushy from that, and also I was telling you before, I've given up caffeine, so
that's not helping. It will eventually.
I'm thinking about the long term. But at the cafe, coming up, we've got a British introduction to British Sign Language course that's starting.
Oh, really?
So the idea is there's going to be a couple of people that are going to come and lead that for 3 sessions. There's 3 consecutive Mondays, I think it is, and then the hope is that the group would then become sort of a self-sustaining learning group, to a group of people that are interested in learning that together. So that I'm super excited about that happening.
That's great. Me and my niece have been looking for something to get involved in with that, because she has a little brother who needs to sign, and it's something that we've both been looking for. So we'll definitely.
Oh, you should come!
Definitely look at that.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you the information. It's all on the Facebook page. Look on the Facebook. And what else? We also have. So we have a lovely asylum-seeking person who is currently unable to work because of their status, but was a barber in their country, and comes every first Monday of the month to the cafe and gives free haircuts to anyone who wants one.
Wow, that's amazing.
And he's very well. He's properly trained, and he just wants something to do, and he's so generous with his time to do it. And so free haircuts every first Monday of the month. We have a knit and natter group that meets on the first Friday of the month, which is also lovely. And we do lots of collaborations with people. We do these bistros 2 times a month, the first and third Friday of the month we do, and it's like an evening dinner, and they're often a collaboration with someone. We've done a climate action one, we did that with the youth strike and with XR. We did oh goodness, now I'm trying to think, there's been so many
all sorts of amazing, brilliant
I
things.
can't think. We just did one with the Leeds Queer Film Festival, which was a lot of fun and very interesting, and a real bringing together of the different parts of the queer community. Which I found very interesting. I've done things for Calais. Oh goodness, there's so many. Honestly, it's quite intense. How many things
I can imagine.
And people want to use the space, and the better. And the longer it goes on, the more I just get requests all the time to.
That's lovely.
It's beautiful.
And so you the main person who's organising all these things.
So so we have 2 managers at the cafe. So I do 3 days a week, and Caleb, my other manager, just runs 1 day a week. And we run it together. I think it was about a year into me being there that he was a volunteer that showed so much enthusiasm and interest that we made him a job. and that's actually a real goal of ours at the moment, is to try and pay more people to do things, because sadly there's a lot of community work that people are doing, and they're just doing it all voluntarily, which is wonderful, but people also have rent to pay. So I want to start doing more of the workshop, paying more people to run workshops and trying to pay stuff. But the majority of people are the volunteers who come and do the cooking and the cleaning, and are incredibly generous and talented and wonderful. I do a lot of the organising and a lot of the emails.
I bet you get to meet all sorts of amazing people, though.
Yeah, it's a real spectrum of everyone. I think one of the big benefits, as well as I've watched, is the students, because in Hyde Park there is a bit of a tension between the students and the local residents, because some students have not been respectful of the area, of the whatever. But actually in our cafe you get the local people and you get the students, and they're volunteering together, eating together, chatting together. And it's actually, I think, built a lot of links. And some people have even said to me, I thought all the students were awful, but actually all these ones are great, and they can name 10 people that they've met who've been lovely. We've had the Lord Mayor came to the Christmas Day dinner. She's a very lovely woman. We have, the local councillors run their surgery from our cafe once a month as well, so that I see quite a lot of them. There's just every different type of person you can imagine. It's a real,
It's really heartwarming as well, isn't it? It's particularly in this quite bleak time. It's very great to hear about, and I think it's something. I'm sure these things are happening all over the country, but I felt like in Leeds we're particularly good at that, just picking up things and thinking, right, well, we'll just do it ourselves and get on with it.
Yeah, I think I think that Leeds is particularly good at it. I think it's incredibly important at the moment. Like, we are a divided country. The election result, whatever you think of, shows a big division in our country.
Definitely.
And that's really sad. And I feel overwhelmed with sadness a lot of the time when I think too hard about that. But what I think is brilliant, and what I think will eventually change things, is small community things where people get on it. Because when you talk to someone that's different from you and you see that there's more in common than divides you, there's more. We have more in common, and especially over food is a great way. Over lunch is a great way to like level. We're just everyone eats.
Everybody eats.
And I think more of these things. There should be more of these things. It's sad that there is a need. In that, it's sad how much food is wasted, and it's sad how many people are living in poverty and or just financially struggling in this country. So it's sad that it's needed for that reason, but I think it's important that if we're going to heal this country, we need to have more beautiful community things, and we need to talk to each other.
I think it's great as well that you're creating opportunities for, like you said, people from different walks of life to come together and learn about each other. And learn that we're not as different as perhaps we've thought.
We have most of us in, the people in Leeds have more in common with each other than we do with the government, or whatever the government is, any of the politicians,
anyone who are making decisions.
We have more in common. In like everyday people have more in common, and we mustn't let the media or the politicians or whoever divide us any more than it's already been happening.
I agree. So you were talking about you also do lots of work with refugees. So I did. So I was in Calais. I was in Calais for a long time, and I've taken over supplies every now and again. I do a little, because I've got my lovely van, my camper van, so I can fill that up with stuff and take things over there. And we also work quite a lot with Lassan and Pathras, two are amazing organisations that work with refugees in Leeds, and. We have a lot of asylum seekers coming through to volunteer. One of my favourite things that I do is a cooking class for unaccompanied asylum seeking teenagers. Who are all most of them are like 15-year-old boys, and they are the most fun. They are so I can't. I mean, their levels of English aren't always so good, but they're such a fun group, and I really that's one of my favourite things to do at a cafe, is to do that class. So they get into the cooking and they enjoy it.
Oh yeah, I mean they get quite competitive about it actually, because they all start off. I mean, they're sitting around. We do it in an evening. It's actually something I do voluntarily. It's not really. I just use the cafe. And they're lounging around trying to, too cool for school, not interested. But then once they get going, they're all sort of almost have to stop them from edging each other out of the way whilst whilst they're chopping things, trying to be like, let me show you, I'll show you how to do it, I know how to do it better than you. And they've made some delicious things, and they've taught me some stuff as well, because they're from all over and they have a different culture, and they can bring something to my cooking as much as I can bring it to them. So that's one of my favourite things.
I bet that sounds great. And so who actually does look after these teenagers then?
So the group that they come to me through the Red Cross, so they're running a group. I mean, some of them are living in like supported sort of foster families or supported accommodation, and some of them are sort of 16, 17 living basically on their own, which is just
so hard to have to become an adult at that age.
I don't feel like I was an adult until I was about 30. So do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just the thought of being on my own at that age,
and also these children have all gone through a lot of trauma. Like the journey would have been traumatic. The way they've been treated, I mean, traffickers and
losing family members and
losing family members, being separated from your family for a long time when you're that young. It's something.
So it's great that you can be contributing in this way, and making a difference to people's lives. That's just fantastic.
Well, thank you. I mean, it feels like such a drop in the ocean, you know. Like,
but I think every little drop in the ocean all builds up.
You're so right. Yeah, you're so right, and it's true. We can all do a little thing, and even if the little thing is just being a bit nicer to everyone.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right, because I think that, you know, especially people who've faced any kind of, like you said, like media backlash or anything like that, you know what I mean, or fear in communities and stuff like that. If just one person can show a little bit of kindness and just say, you know, we're not all against you, you know, you know, some of us understand and want to help, and that's also a great thing.
It does, and it makes such a difference. One of the charities that I was sort of working with in Calais, Help Refugees, have these T-shirts that say "Choose Love," and it's kind of a bit of a joke amongst my friends, because I've got one that I wear. It's so tatty, and I wear it all the time, and I wear it to protest, and I wear it at the cafe, because I think that I know it's a bit of an oversimplified message, and yet it's not necessarily, that's not the only thing that we need to do to change the world. But I do think that if every day we chose to like love people rather than turn away from them, it will in the end make a big difference.
I think so, yeah, because it's a start, isn't it? It's a starting point.
Exactly. Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day, and it wasn't. Other cliches.
Yeah. Add your own as you feel fit. Also, I remember you mentioning to me about Sisters Uncut.
Yeah, so Sisters Uncut is a feminist direct action group that I am involved with. You might know them from the London group. Occupied Holloway Prison for a certain amount of time a few years ago. Basically, we want to fight against austerity and the way that it disproportionately affects women and non-binary people, whilst also having a class analysis of that, because obviously, like, it's not just about women. It's not about women versus men, or women and non-binary people versus men. There are also, you know, being in poverty is a lot of it is about class and the way that the working class have been demonised. But yeah, so I'm getting off track. But yeah, so we try and highlight local issues. There was a housing estate in LS26 that was trying to be was going to be demolished, so that they
read about this.
Yeah, so they wanted to demolish it. The developers wanted to demolish it to build luxury accommodation,
which those people who are being displaced would never be able to afford.
And they were being told that they would be on the council waiting list, that the top priority people would be housed in 70 weeks. 70 weeks.
So a year and a half, basically.
So that's Band-Aid, that's top priority. That is how.
What were they supposed to do for the
sofa surf? Look, like, honestly, it's madness. Exactly. This is the thing. This is why we got so involved with it, because like the council needs more council. Like, they need to sort out the council housing situation in Leeds. It makes me. The homelessness crisis is exploding. I've been here for 3 years, and the difference in the amount of homeless people I see on a day-to-day basis than 3 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
And that you can't, like, that's true. That's true. When I talk to my friends in Bristol and London and Brighton, and they're all saying the same thing. Like, and that's because there's no council housing and there's no support, and all the services have been cut, and austerity is killing our country and killing people. And so Sisters Uncut, basically, we're going to fight back a bit. We're going to fight back against austerity. We're going to highlight the issues. We do protests, we do workshops, we do skilling up, we do film screenings, we do lots of different things. And yeah, if people are interested to come and get involved in that, or start their own thing. I do think as well, like the number one bus campaign.
Yeah.
That's something to get involved in Leeds. That's another thing that I've been thinking about, that I really want to get involved in, because that it seems like such a little thing, like it's a bus route, but it's
bigger than that, I think, because I mean I tend to get the bus from the top of the road here, so I get the 2 or the 3, but there have been times when, because I work at University of Leeds, mainly at St James's, but if I'm at Main University, that was the best one for me to get. And then when all of a sudden it got cut, to me it felt a little bit like what First Bus was saying was, people from Beeston don't need to get to the university.
Exactly.
And I just think that's absolutely horrific.
It's so discriminatory, and it's so unfair. And of course, like, if you can't get out of your area, of course you can't can't move forward, you can't progress.
Yeah, your options are limited.
It's forcing people down further, and it seems like a small issue, but I think it's a very important one actually. So start your own, like that's my, like go off, find something that you don't like and
make it better
and fight against it. God, there's so many things.
Just not enough time
in the day.
So you also mentioned to me about Bedford Fields.
So this is just a beautiful little community forest garden. It's in Woodhouse, Hyde Park, Woodhouse kind of area. And so the reason I wanted to talk about that is, I mean, firstly, it's a small little patch of land that they've got off the council and that they've turned into an edible garden, and sort of using permaculture principles. But yeah, I think 90% of what they grow there is edible, and it's a great example of like how you can take back control as well as growing. And I really believe that we need to grow more of our own stuff.
Yeah.
And also getting outside and doing some like gardening can be really good for your physical and mental health.
It can.
It was, they do lovely things down there. They have a Saturday work day. It's worth going to check it out. But also we could do with we need more of those gardening projects, because I walked here from town and it's just so concrete. It's so concrete, and there's no gardens and growing space.
No, I literally just spoke to the last two guests I had on about the same thing. They were talking about how difficult it is to walk to certain areas. So sometimes I walk from St James's into town, but by the time I get to the Tetley, that walk from like the Adelphi to where I live, it's so concrete and not somewhere you feel particularly safe walking at night.
No.
And like you say, it'd be lovely to have like some sort of a green belt that you can walk through and that you can enjoy. There's a great guy who's been a guest on our podcast who lives in Beeston called Ed Carlisle. He gets involved in all sorts of community action things.
Yeah,
he's
fabulous. Yeah,
and he's got little community gardens in the Crossflats Park, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then there was one year he came round, and I was a little bit suspicious because I live in Beeston. You've got to be a little bit suspicious. Where somebody came to me and was like, I'm going to swap your hanging baskets for some new ones, and I was like, okay. And then I watched him, and they did go off and fill this basket and put some new flowers in for me. And I know it's just like a very small thing, and round here most people rent, and so I think, and can be quite itinerant and move around a lot, and so you don't particularly get people to take a massive amount of pride in the garden. Why should they if they don't live there all the time and you haven't got a lot of money?
Yeah.
But little pockets of action like that are just so wonderful.
Honestly,
I think just anything like that is absolutely great.
Yeah, I do, and I think we need more green spaces.
Yeah,
this side of the city compared to like your Woodhouse and your Headingley kind of bit, there's a real stark difference between the amount of green, and I just think it's so important. Like, I wouldn't want to go outside and walking if it was all concrete all the time around me, and that is limiting like my exercise, my mental health, like all of the things. So more of those things, definitely.
And I think there's something really lovely as well about growing things and being involved in nature, and that kind of like, I mean, again, it could sound like a cliche, but that kind of reconnecting back to, because you can be so divorced, and we're not even talking about animal welfare, just in general about where your vegetables come from and how they grow, and are you eating the part that's under the ground, or are you eating the part that's above the ground? I think all things like that are really necessary.
No, definitely. People don't know a lot about people really don't know a lot about where their food comes from.
No, because I think that, I don't think it's a huge conspiracy theory or anything that made this happen. I think it's like all sorts of things that came together, as sort of capitalist society sort of grew. But you're constantly divorced from things that, 100 years ago you'd have much more idea. Even little things like, you get stung by nettles, knowing that to use a dock leaf. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a really silly, like little old wives' tale, but actually there's a scientific reason, and I worry that you're going to lose that education.
Yeah, we're losing that knowledge it's incredibly sad, and it's definitely happening. I grew up with my grandparents, and I feel like I got a lot more of that from that generation, because they did know more of those things, and so I feel very privileged to have had that opportunity to have had like a bit more of that kind of knowledge. But we're losing it, and if we don't make an effort, it's going to be lost forever, and that'll be
I think as well, it all stems into this whole thing about the environment and caring about those kind of things. If you're more involved in any small way, then you have a more vested interest, and I think especially with children, you know, giving them the knowledge about cooking food, about where food comes from, and about how to maintain yourself, because, you know, again, you could argue that why is society not better organised to be given this information, but, you know, for all sorts of reasons it's not. And if that kind of information is not being given in schools because they're pressured in certain ways, it's great to know that there are other things where children can learn about, you know, especially in this community, you can be quite divorced from nature. And the school I used to work at, I mean, children there didn't necessarily have pets, and didn't ever see sort of farm animals or anything, and then occasionally we would bring somebody in, you know, just like some little sheep and a goat and things like that, and you know, and I mean, some of the children were terrified, like disproportionately so to us, but if you've never seen a goat, and you've never touched one, and you've never had a pet, then you have no connection. And I think all little things like that are really important.
Yeah, definitely.
So is there anything else that you're involved in that you'd like to tell me about?
Well, if we're talking a bit about housing, so I live in a housing co-op.
Oh, right.
Which is another thing that Leeds taught me about, because I didn't know, I'd never really heard of a housing co-op until I moved to Leeds.
No, I can't think of how does that actually work?
So basically, you're a member. I'm a member of the housing co-op, and it's the co-op that owns the house. So although I rent, as in I pay a rent every month, I don't have we are our own landlords.
Oh, okay.
So there are 14 members in my housing co-op over 2 houses which are on the same street, and so it means that we do our own repairs and organise sometimes, if it's, you know, can't do all of the repairs, sometimes it means organising someone to come and do it, but we're not beholden to a landlord. It means that we set the rent levels. The way that we pay rent in my housing co-op, which is called Cornerstone, is a third of your income.
Right.
So everyone pays a third of their income. There is a minimum amount to make, but the minimum amount is low compared to rent in general, I would say. But yeah, you just pay a third of what you earn, which is a fair amount. And yeah, it does mean that sometimes people are paying a lot more than others, but that's fine. And we eat communally, we buy our food communally, we give a monthly donation we have a business meeting every month, and we send a donation every month to a couple of charities or organisations that we want to. We do all our own. We do all our own maintenance and that, but yeah, we're not. It's basically it's stable housing. Yeah. If I lose my job, I wouldn't be kicked out. Like you can people have built up rent debts, you know, waiting for benefits. I had a housemate who was waiting a long time for universal credit, which is another thing that I could talk about for a long time. But if he had been in a private renting situation and had lost his job and been waiting however many months it was, he would have probably ended up homeless. And not in that is so it's secure. Basically it's security for me. It's security. It allows me to work less time, it allows me to not have to feel like I should work full time. It allows me that security, and it gives me a community. And in my community of, well, there's 14 members, and then there's some other people that are sort of in and out and blah blah blah. There's a range of people doing a range of things, a range of ages, a range of ethnicities, classes, everything, and we are a little community. And I think it's another thing that's been lost a little bit in time in this country, is that we don't all know our neighbours, and we don't all my grandma used to talk very fondly of, you know, I used to know everyone on the street, and now we don't know anyone, and people don't talk to us anymore. And I think that that's important, because if you're in trouble, you can go to your you used to be able to go to your neighbours and say, could you, you know, I know, what's the cliche, cup of sugar, right? But not even anything. And like we've lost it, but I feel like I found it in Cornerstone, and it feels very safe. And the other thing that we do, which probably starts to sound like a bit hippie thing, but we have a monthly feelings meeting, right, where we go round and everyone gets a chance to speak. It's in a, you know, you sit, everyone gets a chance to say what's going on in their life, how they're feeling, good and bad things about living here. And it's just so you know where everyone is, and it's really helpful. And I honestly think all households should do it. It's just a check-in to be like, oh, that's why, maybe my husband's like, oh, that's why Emily was so grumpy, because she's got terrible period pain, or whatever. And
it gives you a context, I suppose.
And you know a little bit about everyone's lives, and you get a bit more understanding. And also, it's a place to kind of stop conflict, like nip conflict in the bud kind of thing. Like we are encouraged to say negative things about living in the house, and to sort of get it out in the open and deal with any problems before they arise. And it sounded really scary to me, and before I moved in I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk about my feelings in front of all these people. But actually it's been one of the most helpful things, like helpful and supportive things that I've had. So yeah, I'm big evangelically into co-ops at the moment.
That's a great idea.
Excited.
And so Cornerstone, who run it, do they have houses like that across Leeds? Or?
No, so Cornerstone is us. We are Cornerstone. So whoever's the members, and we only have those 2 houses, but there are there's loads of co-ops in Leeds. There is in fact a co-op not far from us called Greenwood, a very new co-op, who bought their house earlier this year, who's looking for a member. And there's lots of very well established co-ops. Some of them have like incredibly low rent, or have been around for a very long time. There's different type, I think there's different types of different communities. Maybe, I don't know if that's I think there's in Manchester, there's one for people of colour, and there's like a LGBT one, so you can find your community. But yeah, in terms of like having a community around you, having housing security, it is really amazing. Unfortunately, it is more difficult to set them up these days because house prices have gone through the roof. And
I suppose you've got to get the money together to buy the property in the first place, which is something everybody struggles with.
This is the problem. And luckily, Cornerstone was established in the 90s when the bottom fell out of the housing market, and they were lucky to have bought 2 incredibly big and lovely houses for what now seems like a very small amount of money.
No doubt felt significant at the time.
And obviously it was different. But so we're part of an organisation called Radical Roots, who can give loans to people that want to start co-ops. So if you're worried about your housing situation, or if look into housing co-ops. There's a lot in Leeds actually, and I think that's a good tip for people to know about, because I never heard of it.
No.
But I love it so much.
That's
great. It's like my
family. So we always ask our guests 3 questions. The first one is, can you tell us something that is great about Leeds?
I think the best thing about Leeds is the amount of different community groups and community things that are happening. Like, there's just so many. I want to be involved in all of them, and I don't have enough time. But it really strikes me as a city that does community action well, and it's very friendly city as well. But maybe that's just because I'm a southerner.
So can you tell us something that you think is not so great about Leeds? What I think is not well. It's a bit cold for me here. I should say that now. It's a beautiful sunny day, but it was a bit. I remember it was snowing in April last year, and I thought, why am I living in the north of England? But that's more of a silly one. I think the housing crisis, the lack of council housing, and the cuts to services, which is a nationwide problem. But it's really bad in Leeds as well. So that is something not so great. And can you tell us about something that, even if you're a long-term resident of Leeds, you may never have heard of this particular hidden gem?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it counts because it hasn't actually started yet. It won't start until next month. But there is about to be a independent queer bookshop.
Oh wow!
So I have just come from there. My bag has got 6 books which I bought because they were doing a 3 for 2 sale, and I can't resist books.
No, I'm the same.
But they're called The Bookish Type. Check them out on Instagram. They've been doing pop-ups all over the place for the last year or so, and they will very soon, hopefully have premises maybe not for a couple of months, but hopefully soon there will be an independent bookshop, an independent queer bookshop, which I am so excited about. So that's why I've chosen it. But I guess, yeah,
I think that's a great.
It doesn't
one.
exist yet.
It's a great one because no one else is ever going to say it because you've chosen a future one.
I've chosen a future one, but there's so many other. Oh, there's so many good places in Leeds. Yeah, I feel so lucky to be here.
Well, that's a fantastic thing to hear. If you want to send me links to any of the things, and we'll put them all in the podcast notes, and then anybody can get involved.
No,
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
What's happening in this great city? Light on Leeds, we'll tell you. But wait a minute. Light on Leeds.
Wow. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed talking to Emily. As usual, there are links in the podcast notes to all of the things that she's mentioned so that you can click over and get involved. Music this week is a great track by Chris Clyburn called Cherry Blossom. Chris has an album out called Life, Love and Other Complications that's available on iTunes, Google Play and Amazon. Do have a listen.